In the name of the one holy and living God, amen. Please be seated. I'm not sure how many of us were up for hearing these harsh readings on a late summer morning. The lectionary has served up a catalog of horrors in the letter to the Hebrews, and then an angry tirade from Jesus just to top it off. It's probably not what we're in the mood for right now. But as the late, great Betty Davis would say, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. But the theme of these texts, faith, is always timely. Faith in the face of difficulty, faith in the face of fear, faith in the face of devastation, and the choices we make in response to that faith. Jesus tells his followers that he has come to bring fire to the earth and says he wishes it were already kindled. Jesus is stressed out. You can hear the anger and frustration in his voice as he confronts the people's unknowing looks, even as he prepares for the fate that awaits him. He desperately wants them to understand what he is offering them, and they are just not getting it. Jesus knows that the people's faithlessness and obliviousness isn't new. They've been there before. And so he reaches deep into their history, drawing on the warnings and wisdom of the prophet Micah to remind them of what's at stake. Micah prophesied to his people 8 centuries before Jesus, during another time of social upheaval and fear, when the people lived under the threat from a powerful and dangerous empire. He describes what it looks like when a society is under stress, when internal and external threats put pressure on the people and force them to choose between faithfulness to God or succumbing to the powers of this world. Micah claimed that not a single faithful person could be found among the people of his time. Things had gotten so bad that the people couldn't even trust their own family members. Father will turn against son, mother will turn against daughter, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law. Your enemies, said Micah, are members of your own household. So in quoting Micah, Jesus is giving his own people fair warning. You do not want to go down that path again. The fire that Jesus brings is the refining fire of faithfulness through adversity that leads to spiritual transformation. Our reading from Hebrews also reaches deep into the ancient past with a curious list of Old Testament characters who are counted among the great cloud of witnesses. Now, the people who originally received this letter would have been familiar enough with these names that they would immediately know who and what the writer was referring to. But that's probably not the case for us. We might know something about David or Samson or Samuel, but little or nothing about Gideon, Barak, and Jephthah. And among the group is one woman, Rahab, a prostitute. Including a woman like her among the heroes of the faith may seem like an unexpected, perhaps even scandalous choice. But in fact, none of these heroes were perfect. The list is full of doubters, adulterers, malingerers, and tricksters. And the good news about that is that leaves plenty of room for us. But still, there was something about each of them that made them worthy to be counted among the great cloud of witnesses. Faith is their common bond. Rahab holds a special place in both Jewish and Christian traditions. She's named 3 times in the New Testament, including, most significantly, as one of Jesus' ancestors in his genealogy in the Gospel of Matthew. She's something like Jesus' 32nd great-grandmother. Don't quote me on that. I tried to do the math. You can figure it out for yourself in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1. Count back. So the point is, though, that Rahab is someone we should get to know. Her story, which, by the way, reads like an international spy thriller, is found in the book of Joshua, when the Israelites have approached the Canaanite city of Jericho and are about to take possession of the land. Joshua sends 2 spies into the city to reconnoiter the situation, and they end up staying with Rahab. The king of Jericho finds out about them and sends his men to Rahab to capture them. But Rahab has hidden the spies on the roof of her house, and she tells the king's men that they've already left town. When the king's men go off in search of them outside the city, Rahab gets the spies to promise to spare her and her family when they conquer the city, telling them, "The Lord your God is indeed God in heaven above and on earth below." And so they promise. The spies escape, Jericho is conquered, and Rahab and her entire family are spared, even as the city is burned to the ground. Rahab's story raises many questions. Why did she hide the enemy spies? Why did she trust them? Why did she decide to go against the king? Why was she willing to take such a huge risk? What had she experienced that allowed her to believe in the power of God? And why did she turn to God not in fear, but in faith? As the letter to the Hebrews tells us, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. In faith, we move toward an unseen reality based not on empirical evidence, but on an inner knowing. Faith keeps us moving forward even in the face of danger, disappointment, and despair. Some promises were kept in the stories of this catalog of heroes. Abraham and Sarah had a son. Moses led his people to the promised land. Rahab was spared. And yet, none of them lived to see the ultimate promise fulfilled, a promise that was not for them individually, but a corporate promise that is for the good of the whole world. The promise God offers is not for our own personal fulfillment, but for the greater good of all. And that takes time. Living by faith, we don't look for immediate gratification. Living by faith takes persistence, endurance, and a willingness to accept promises deferred. Faith is active and hopeful, but it does not calculate the result in advance. The letter to the Hebrews asks us to do the hard work of faithful living. It asks us to get to know our forebears, to hear their stories and learn lessons from them, and to be fortified by this great cloud of witnesses. We are not likely to endure the terrible trials they endured, but we are nevertheless called to persist in our faith, even in the face of unmet promises. So we'll fasten our seatbelts all together for the bumpy ride ahead, called to run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Amen.